Story 1. The Haunting on River Island. When I moved to the isolated River Island with my grandparents during the pandemic, I didn't expect much beyond the usual quiet, rural life. The house we lived in was old, perched on stilts, and had a long history, one that wasn't mentioned much. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it. An unsettling presence, like the house had a memory of its own. It wasn't long before strange things began to happen. Late at night, I'd hear noises from the walls, scratching, scuttling, whispers. At first I thought it was just the wind or old pipes. But when the housekeeper started complaining about being touched by unseen hands, I knew something was wrong. One night, I followed her as she made her way to the back room where the sounds were the loudest. As we stood there in the dim light, the air grew thick, and the shadows in the room seemed to move. She screamed and ran, and I realized the house was far from empty. The spirits were angry, and they wanted her gone. The intensity of the hauntings died down after she left, but I could never shake the feeling that something was still watching from the dark corners. Story 2. The Shadow in the Corner. I've always considered myself a rational person, never one to believe in ghosts or spirits. But that night, my perspective changed forever. I was home alone in my apartment, trying to enjoy a quiet evening. It was around midnight when I first noticed it. A dark shape, a shadow standing in the corner of my living room. It was the strangest thing. I couldn't make out its features, just an impenetrable mass of darkness. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but no matter how many times I looked away and back again, it remained. When I tried to confront it, the shadow seemed to grow, its form elongating toward me. Panic surged through me, and I bolted from the room. But the moment I turned my back, I could feel it following me. I could hear faint footsteps behind me, echoing in the silence. I ran into the kitchen, locked the door, and grabbed my phone to call a friend. When I looked around the room, the shadow was there again, standing in the reflection of the kitchen window. It wasn't until dawn that the presence finally faded, but I knew it would return. It always does. Story 3. The Haunted Theater. It was 2012 when I found myself in a movie theater, just like any other evening, until the shooting started. It was chaos. I remember the sharp crack of gunshots, the screams of terrified people, and the confusion as I tried to make sense of what was happening. I managed to hide behind a seat, praying that I would make it out alive. But amidst the chaos, something strange happened. As I crouched there, trying to stay hidden, I felt a cold breath on my neck. It wasn't just fear, it was a presence, something watching. When I escaped, I thought it was all behind me until the nightmares started. I began dreaming about the theater, but not in the way you'd expect. The images were haunting, ghostly figures wandering the halls, people in the seats who were no longer alive. One night, I saw the shooter, his face distorted, his eyes hollow, as if he was still trapped in that very theater. I reached out to a medium, hoping to find peace, but they told me that some souls linger, unable to leave. The theater wasn't just haunted by the victims, it was haunted by the violence itself. Story 4. The Road to Nowhere. I was driving alone late one evening, taking a shortcut through a small, remote town. It was a place I'd never been, and the roads were unfamiliar. As I drove, I noticed something odd. The streetlights seemed to flicker in an unnatural pattern, and the trees along the road began to bend in ways that weren't possible. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but the road seemed to stretch on endlessly. The night grew darker, the temperature dropped, and soon I was driving through what looked like a never-ending tunnel of trees. No matter how many times I turned the car around, the road never ended. Each time I passed a sign, It would change. The name of the road, the direction, even the town. It was like I was stuck in a loop. When I tried to stop and take a walk to clear my mind, I felt eyes watching me from the shadows. But no one was there. I wasn't on a road anymore. I was in a place beyond reality, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape. I finally floored the gas and broke free, but I never forgot the way the road seemed to live, to breathe. Story 5. The Ghostly Visitor. I had just moved into a new apartment in a quiet neighborhood. It was cozy, but something felt off. One evening, I was sitting in my living room when I noticed the temperature drop. It was sudden, like a draft had rushed through the place. I looked around, but everything seemed normal, until I saw her. A woman, pale and transparent, standing in the doorway. She didn't speak, but her presence filled the room with a heaviness. I froze, unsure if I was dreaming or awake. As she vanished, I heard her voice, soft and distant. "You're not safe here." The next few days were a blur. Objects would move, lights flickered, and I began to hear whispers in the dark. One night, I got a text from my late mother. It simply said, "Don't trust her." I didn't know what to make of it, but I knew the woman wasn't just a ghost. She had a purpose, and it was tied to the apartment. I had to find out what it was before it was too late. If you like bone-chilling stories like this, like and subscribe for more.